Do you take the time to actually stand back and rest and catch your breath? Because I imagine this is not. I mean, I know you get a lot of praise and accolades, but at the same time, some of the emails there were kind of vicious, and I believe you get much more than of that than the ones published in the book.
Right.
It must be really a real strain, and I'm not even talking about the death threats now.
Yeah, just the hatred and the
How do you cope
vitriol.
with it?
It's such an interesting question that Nima asked, because anybody who seeks to make social change, again, back to the issue of offending, progress never happens without ruffling somebody's feathers, right? So this is inherent in the territory of, making social change, possibly that much more so within the context of Islam today. And the fact of the matter is that I've come to realize in a very eye-opening way just how much I was deluding myself, deceiving myself over the years that, yes, I am strong and I can handle this and I'm just going to go out and confront. I had a physical collapse over the summer. In the leading up to the publication of the new book, I had not even consciously lost 20 more pounds than what you see right now. I was even thinner, and when I realized that there was so much exhaustion built into me that I was having actually a seizure in a makeup chair at a studio for yet another interview, I didn't even have the resources, the fuel, the petrol to fight back. And I fainted and was rushed to the hospital and had to cancel the entire summer tour because my doctors, both in Toronto and in New York, said, that's it. This is, you've been on the edge of losing your physical strength for too long now. And if you don't take the time to give back to yourself the energy that you're giving out to people, the next time probably will be a heart attack. And this was a real wake-up call for me. I'm glad you asked this, Nima, because, again, we don't talk about these issues when we're discussing the big ideas. It's always about the ideas and about the strategies. If we're lucky, we get to the strategies and tactics. It does take a toll. So this is another way of recognizing, the humanity that we need to be, I guess, forgiving in one another. I've learned, by the way, can I say, that despite my, strong statements, I have to become more patient with myself and with the world. For my sustainability, for my survival, for my strength, I can still have these convictions, but I recognize as well that even if the visible changes don't happen in my lifetime, it doesn't mean you haven't contributed to the process of change. Remember that only 3 generations ago, it was laughable to think that America would be ready to elect an African-American president. Today, not only do we have that, but as I like to joke, he is totally mediocre. He is totally average, worse than average, in fact, and this says something about his imperfect humanity. So again, it's not about his skin color. I look at him as a human being, not just, certainly not just and not even now as a black man, okay? But it took 200 years to get to the point where it could be even conceived, albeit laughably, that, a black man can be president of the U.S. 200 years, and yet within 3 generations thereafter, it happened. So at one and the same time, cultural change takes a while. Be patient with the world and yourself, but also recognize that when that critical point is reached, as it was in the 1960s, you'll be surprised how quickly change can happen after that. Oh my God, Julie.
Does she?
Holy crap. We differ. So I've got a fun little story to tell you, and I tell it in the book, actually, so it's not telling tales out of school. Tariq Ramadan and I had what I call in the book a train wreck of a debate. in Oslo, as it turns out, in 2009. It was a debate about freedom of expression, but you see, he treated it as a very abstract thing about the theory of freedom of expression, and I used my freedom of expression to challenge him. He didn't like that. He ended his opening statement with a call for empathy for Muslims, okay? And I said, hey, this is interesting. You're calling for empathy, but I'm going to use my freedom of expression to ask you, Tariq, where is your empathy for Muslim women and men who are being stoned to death in countries like Iran? Well, that's it. The tone completely changed. He got enraged. And at one point, the tone became so toxic, so poisonous, that at one point I said to him, and this is, by the way, I have this clip on my website, okay? I said to him, what has gotten in under your skin this morning? Clearly, something has agitated you, something has irritated you, and I don't know what that is. What is bothering you? And he said, women. And I said, you heard it here first. Exactly. And this guy is defined by mainstream elites as the emblem of progressive Islam? Give me a break. Well, you see, but this is the interesting thing, and I have all of your questions, by the way, so I'm not going to skirt those. What is he is the emblem of moderate Islam, sir. He is. That's the problem. This is moderate Muslims today. Okay? And if you go to chapter 6 of the book, which is called, the chapter 6 that is called, In Times of Moral Crisis, Moderation is a Cop-Out. That teaching comes directly from Martin Luther King Jr. when he wrote the letter from a Birmingham jail. And read the letter from a Birmingham jail. He actually says, you moderate Christians, that's God on the line, I know, and I will offer my apologies just a little bit later. That's right. This is right. He actually said, sir, are you listening? Okay. He actually said, in the letter from a Birmingham jail, you moderate Christians, you call yourselves moderate, but you are anything but. I ask the moderates, how are you being, forget even the conservatives, the moderates, how are you being any less selective when you ignore the following verses of the Quran? Unto you your religion, unto me my religion. Hold on, sir. Whosoever will, let him believe, and whosoever will, let him disbelieve. One more, just as an example. Let there be no compulsion in religion. I am selecting these verses as my guide, in addition to chapter 13, verse 11, in addition to chapter 4, verse 135, which states, believers, conduct yourselves with justice and bear true witness before God. Here's the kicker. Even if it be against yourselves, your parents, or your relatives. That's a call for moral courage. So yeah, I'm being selective. But don't tell me, well, you can tell me, feel free, but I will tell you in turn, okay, that these verses are not in the Quran. They are. Okay. You just said to me, actually, that you clearly don't believe in the Quran. Really? I clearly don't believe in the Quran?
I do not believe in the
That's right, but neither do those who act with violence or who act with silence in the name of that violence, because they are ignoring the freedom-friendly verses of the Quran. It's to Eduardo. Who the parents and the elders of gay and lesbian and transgendered and transsexual Muslims would tell you that it's because of our religion that we must forget even disapprove. I don't know too many gays and lesbians who really care whether they are disapproved, but we must not tolerate and therefore allow for violence against you. That is where the problem is, by the way. It's not the disapproval. It's the open door to the violence that becomes the problem. And I go back to the Quran, the book in which I don't believe. I go back to the Quran, which very clearly, I say in Allah, Liberty, and Love, has this really quite brilliant passage that can be used by people like me to turn the tables on the moderates and the fundamentalists. The verse I'm referring to, chapter 3, verse 7, states, and I'm taking this literally now, states, there are passages in this book that are clear or precise, and passages in this book that are ambiguous. And it is those with disbelief in their hearts who will pounce on, who will seize upon the ambiguous verses in order to decree or dictate certain interpretations. Muslims, know that only your Lord knows the full and final meanings of these verses. And in the book, in my new book, I use that verse to elaborate on my analysis that those who say that somebody like me has a gay agenda, when I'm actually just following the fact that we don't have the full and final truth about what the parable of Lut, otherwise known as Sodom and Gomorrah, actually means in the Quran, that there are multiple interpretations that are possible. And those who tell me that no, there is only one interpretation and that is to ban homosexuality, I say to them, now who's the one with the gay agenda? Okay? Why are you, I say to these homophobes, why are you so attached to your disapproval of homosexuality that you can see only one interpretation and thereby presume to play God with me? So, this how-to will show how you can actually use this verse to come back and empower, obviously, and equip those Muslim children who happen to be gay, lesbian, etc., how you can equip them to be able, if should they wish, to go back to their own elders and wave this verse in their face and have a direct conversation. Okay? Rather than fearing that the only way they can live with integrity is to make a choice between homosexuality and Islam. No, it doesn't have to be a showdown. Finally, how to transcend. Basically, I think I was hearing from you, how do we work then with this problematic notion of honor? And by that, I'm taking you to mean group honor, collective honor, the family honor idea, right? Chapter 4, you define your honor. And in this chapter, I'm, again, deconstructing what the Arab tribal in the case of Islam, because obviously there are other customs of group honor, such as in India, among Hindus, has been in Latin America, certainly until fairly recently in Italy as well. But within Arab tribal culture, it is this form of honor that has actually colonized the faith of Islam. What I'm saying is, you can't, in my experience anyway, okay, you can't just say the same thing to people over and over again and say, but you don't understand, you know, that this is about group honor and this is a source of violence and that's it. The reason so many people fall into the trap of thinking, believing, feeling, emoting that, you know, I can't criticize group honor, is that we've been conditioned to believe in a multicultural society that culture is like human beings. Okay? That just because human beings are born equal, cultures are too. And no, we have to analyze this idea of culture and point out that cultures are not God-given, they are man-made.